Hi there, my name's Sherry Forsyth. I'm a peak performance coach, and what I'm talking about for this month of November is the very topical subject of emotional resilience. It's a big buzzword today in the schools, in the workplace. So let's have a little talk about what exactly emotional resilience is, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about why it's so important in today's world. So what emotional resilience is our ability to bounce back after trauma. So think of it like a rubber band, an elastic band, and as the trauma comes, we spread ourselves thinner and thinner and thinner. When the trauma is over, we come back to how we were before, but in fact we will have been weathered by the trauma, so hopefully we'll be even better. But there's additional important things about emotional resilience. The one is that when we see trauma or a challenge happening, if we are emotionally resilient, what we see is how we can grow from that trauma. We don't immediately make the decision that, oh my word, here's something difficult, it's a challenge, I'm never going to be able to do that. What we do think of is, okay, so this is new to me, let me find a way, let me learn how to deal with it. Okay, so that's really important when dealing with emotional resilience. The other thing that is also important is if you experience emotional resilience, you risk failing, which is a huge thing in today's society. And there is a really excellent book called Black Box Thinking by a chap called Matthew Syed about how our society doesn't allow us to fail or to risk failing. And he compares the two businesses of medicine and medical doctors and how they cope with failure, and he compares that to the aviation industry and how they cope with failure. Really outstanding book. So that's the Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed. So we need to know if we're emotionally resilient, we will risk failure. Also, if we're emotionally resilient, we won't just suppress our emotions and pretend that everything is cool and calm. Part of emotional resilience is that we know the emotions, we recognize it, we feel it, and then we work with the emotion. So the old-fashioned ideas of stiff upper lip and let's just press ourselves, let's just go through the motions, but in actual fact we won't allow ourselves to feel sad or to feel anxious. That is no longer valid. Okay? In order to have emotional resilience, we need to feel the emotions and work through them. And lastly, when we're emotionally resilient, we never ever give up. Okay, we never ever give up. There are lots of stories about businessmen who put out patents, hundreds and thousands of times before they were finally selected. So in emotional resilience, whatever the challenge is, we never give up. And I want to read a little quote from an anonymous person, and this was given to me by one of my daughter's friends. In fact, when we were going through a bit of a rough time, so it's very special to me. It's called Don't Quit. There may be times when you do not feel very strong, when most things you do seem to go wrong. You may feel you've come to the end and it's too rough. But don't give up yet. I know you are tough. Remember, after the storm, a rainbow always follows. The sun shines bright and the sky fills with swallows. See this as a challenge, a personal test. When you pull through, you'll be at your very best. Don't quit. I believe in you. Okay, so that's roughly what emotional resilience is. Now, why is it so important today? Why has it become a buzzword? If we look at our lives in general, if we look at the pace of our lives today compared with our parents, if we look at the pace of our children's life in comparison with our life, the pace of life is ever increasing. And because the pace of life is increasing, so are our stress levels. And emotional resilience helps us cope with stressful or traumatic times. The second reason why we really need emotional resilience in today's world is because there is this huge pressure to be perfect, what I call toxic perfectionism. It's a terrible thing to expect that we always have to be perfect, we always have to know the answers, we always have to get, the 90s or 95%, we always have to be in the A team. It's exhausting. And with that additional pressure to be a perfectionist, that's why we need emotional resilience. That's why we need to be able to fail. We need to risk failing and learning. If we have a look at our lives, there are social pressures, financial pressures, work pressures, family pressures, and the list goes on. That is why we need resilience to cope with our lives as they are at the moment. So what I'm wanting really to say is our lives will give us challenges and traumas and possibly failures. If we have emotional resilience, we have the ability to cope well with them. We don't lose it. We don't get over emotional. We don't get overwhelmed. We deal with it in a very realistic way, but a way which allows us to learn through the process and actually be better as a result of having weathered that process. So I'm going to finish with an article by Mar Healy, M-A-R, Healy, called Look Back. Look back, my dear one, and take notice of the journey that's brought you this far. Look back at the beauty, the darkness, the growth. Feel deep pride for all that you are. Look back at the pathways you've traveled in life, some planned and some journeys off track, realizing no matter how lost you felt, each time you would find your way back. Reflect on the courage it took to keep going when the burdens of life felt too great. Acknowledge your strength and your heart, my dear love, when the burdens of life felt too great. Remember that each time the darkness would come and cast shadows across your pure light, that the spark deep within you would rise up again, beaming love, beaming truth, and beaming life. Look back with the wisdom that all you have been through has led you to where you are now. Understanding we're not always granted our wish, but that life knows what's needed somehow. These hardships, this darkness, this pain you've endured, you might never have chosen to know, but within them you learned and you thrived and became. It's in mud that the lotus can grow. So look back, my brave love. Look back and look back. Then surrender and let it all go. Come to here. Come to now. Come to being my darling. Release and allow life to flow. Be alive in this one precious moment, dear one. Be awake to whatever's unfolding. Breathe in life, breathe in love, breathe in hope, breathe in now, and release all the pain you've been holding. Remember the truth of your essence, dear love, an exquisite and rare work of art, an infinite, beautiful being of love, made of stardust and spirit and heart. So that's the first little talk I'm going to do about emotional resilience. In the month of November, I will be looking at various different aspects. Can you build emotional resilience, or are you born with it? I'll look at the behaviors of people who have got strong emotional resilience. In other words, what's in their toolbox. So lots of information coming up for you in November. As always, I thank you for your time, and I've hoped you found this video valuable.